So thank you for the introduction. So I'm Xiao Kuan from Ohio State University. So today I'm going to present my paper, Statistical Privacy for Streaming Traffic. So this is a joint work with Dr. Jihun Han from OSU, Dr. Michael Reiter from UNC Chapel Hill, and my advisor, Dr. Yingqian Zhang. Okay. So nowadays, when we browse websites, usually the network packets are encrypted to avoid information leakage. However, recent studies have shown that despite of the encryption, sensitive information can still be learned from the encrypted packet sequence using machine learning techniques. The traffic analysis attacker can extract features from the encrypted packet sequence, such as size and timing of packets, and perform classification on the features to infer sensitive information. A recent study by Schuster et al. Further extended the traffic analysis to online video streaming services. They demonstrate that due to the uniqueness of the packet burst patterns of the encrypted video streams, the adversary is able to classify the video with very high accuracy, which is a severe breach to the user's privacy. Now let's look at the burst pattern they used for the attack. Most of the streaming service providers adopt the NPAC- standard, which is an adaptive bitrate streaming technique. In NPAC-, a video is divided into segments. When the client is watching the video, it will only request the next segment when the current buffer is running low, and the entire segment finishes downloading long before the client requests another one. So the request for the new segments will cause a unique burst pattern in the network traffic. Since different videos will have a different bit rates, they will have a different burst patterns. Here's an example of a burst size of two different movies, Die Hard and Frozen, when grouping the packets into 50 millisecond windows. So it's clear that they are easy to differentiate based on these burst patterns. Our goal is to defend against this attack. So we first try to replicate this attack. We select 40 videos from YouTube and collect 100 traces per video. We record the timestamp and size of the first 3 minutes of video streaming, and the data collection was automated using Selenium and T-Shark. The raw data was aggregated into a quarter-second bins. Therefore, each 3-minute video will be converted into an array of 720 elements. So this figure is an illustration of the aggregation process. We use 5 types of classifiers to perform the classification. For CNN, we use the exact same model as that in the Usenix paper. So from the result, we can see that CNN performed best with 94.4% accuracy. So we successfully replicated their attack using our own data set. Our work is to defend against the attack using obfuscation techniques. So we use a Chrome extension to enforce the obfuscation. After the defense is deployed, the attacker can still observe the encrypted packet sequence, but he can only achieve a baseline accuracy. So I'm going to explain how this can be done in my presentation. Here's an outline. So we use 2 mechanisms for defense: adversarial machine learning and differential privacy. I will introduce each of them and talk about the evaluation and implementation. After that, I will discuss a few issues and conclude my talk. So our first idea is to adapt adversarial machine learning techniques. Unlike the common use of adversarial machine learning, we exploit it to construct noise samples to defend against ML adversaries. In particular, we utilize the fast gradient size method to generate adversarial samples. Suppose the original video being watched is Die Hard. By crafting the adversarial samples, the classifier will be confused and will misclassify it as Frozen. So we target the CNN classifier and use the FGSM method to generate the adversarial samples. When the noise level is 0.1, the accuracy drops to 8.6%. However, there are some limitations of adversarial samples. First, the attacker may choose a different classifier. So from this figure, we can see that even though the accuracy of CNN classifier drops to below 10%, the SVM can still achieve about 40% accuracy, which means that the adversarial samples are not so effective against other types of classifiers. What's more, the attacker may conduct adversarial training to improve the accuracy. We performed adversarial training on the adversarial samples, and the accuracy increases to over 90%. That makes us wondering, is there a more principled approach that can effectively defend against different types of ML classifiers? So we use differential privacy as our second defense mechanism. Differential privacy was originally proposed to protect the privacy in a database. Suppose that we have two adjacent databases, D and D prime, which only differ in one element. A randomized algorithm M achieves differential privacy if for any observation S, the difference of probability of the result coming from D and D prime is always less than e to a power of epsilon. So here, a small epsilon indicates that MD and MD prime will have a similar distribution. Chatzikalakis et al. Proposed a generalization of differential privacy called D-privacy. It extended the notion of differential privacy to data objects. Suppose that there are two different data objects, X and X prime, and a distance matrix D. So we will have this formula. And here, a small epsilon and dx prime indicates that mx and mx prime will have similar distribution. So in our context, the application of M to sufficiently close examples X and X prime from different classes will ensure that any classifier has a similar probability of classifying mx and mx prime. In our paper, we adopt two mechanisms: Fourier perturbation algorithm from Rastogi et al. And the D-star private mechanism from Xiao et al. So FPA is epsilon differentially private with certain parameters, and D-star is D-star to epsilon differentially private. Please refer to the paper for technical details. Now let's look at our data flow with the defense. We have two parties, attacker and the defender. Originally, there is a sequence of two tuples, timestamp, and size. The defender first sets the window size W, and the original two tuples will be converted into a time series X. Then D adds noise to X and generates X tilde. D then emits the packet according to the X tilde, which is a sequence of noise two tuples. And this is what the attacker observes. So then the attacker will set its window size WA, and then convert the packet sequence into an array X dot. Then the attacker will perform classification on X dot to get a result. So here, the W and WA can be equal or unequal. Please refer to our paper for the details. So now let's go to the evaluation. We use the 40 video data set mentioned before, which contains 4,000 traces. And for parameter settings, we use 10 different epsilons and 5 different Ws. So we have 50 different pairs in total. Also for each window, we choose a clip bound of 0 to 1 gigabyte to make sure the value in each bin is reasonable. So here is a simple example of the clip bound. The blue circles are the data after applying differential privacy. So we will examine each of the data and change values that are less than 0 to 0 and values that are larger to 1 gigabyte to 1 gig, as shown in the red circles. So now let's look at our security evaluation. Here I will only talk about the evaluation on FPA for the sake of time. When the attacker and the defender use the same W, the W will not affect the accuracy much. And to make sure the FPA to make sure the classifier had a baseline accuracy, FPA required the epsilon to be less than 0.5. We have also considered a scenario where the attacker and the defender choose different W. So we performed a similar evaluation on D-star. Please refer to the paper for details. So the takeaway here is that with proper parameters, the two mechanisms can achieve baseline accuracy. And the attacker's choice of window size does not really matter. So now let's look at our utility evaluation. Suppose that the original cumulative trace is A and the noise cumulative trace is B. We define the waste as the maximum amount of data that have been downloaded in advance and the deficit means the max amount of data that needs to be downloaded to keep streaming. So the deficit is the max difference between the two lines in the orange area, while the waste is the max difference in the blue area. So the utility of the two mechanisms was evaluated using the same set of W and epsilon values. According to the figures, the W did not affect the waste of the two methods, and epsilon was the major factor that affected the waste. However, the deficit metric followed a different trend. In FPA, deficit was less fluctuated when W and epsilon changed. For D star, changes in either W or epsilon will affect the deficit significantly. To compare the two methods, we choose the best parameters for each method with the baseline accuracy and the lowest waste. These are the parameters we choose for two methods, and the waste and deficit distribution of the 4,000 traces after applying the two methods are shown in the figure. We can learn that with the best parameters, LPA traces had a median waste of about 200%, while that of D star traces was even higher. For deficit, however, D star performed a lot better. More than 80% of D star traces had a deficit less than 1%, while more than 50% of LPA traces had at least 5% deficit. Now let's look at our real-world implementation. So YouTube video streaming implements a variant of unpack-dash, which allows the client to specify a chunk of video to be downloaded by setting a range parameter. So to enforce the privacy guarantee, we use a Chrome extension to customize the range parameter. So we have three different parties: client, extension, and the server. The attacker is observing the traffic between the extension and the server. The client first initializes a request, which is intercepted by the extension. And then the extension will modify the range of the request and send this customized request to the YouTube server. Then the response will be stored in a local storage. So here the request will be sent at a constant rate, for example, once per second. And then whenever there is a pending request from the server or from the client, the extension will return the requested portion from the local storage. So in this way, the YouTube packets seen by an external observer are fully controlled by the extension. Since the request pattern from the proxy is differentially private, traffic analysis is no longer effective. So to evaluate the effectiveness of our approach, we use the same methods to collect traces for 10 different videos with 100 traces per video with our extension enabled. The dataset was split into a training set with 800 traces and a test set with 200 traces. The traces were collected with W equal to 1 second, epsilon equal to 0.5, and we used 5 different WAs for evaluation. So to demonstrate that extension can indeed defeat machine learning-based traffic analysis, we extract 12 different features such as bytes per bin, packets per bin, and we perform the classification one by one. So the result of the CNN model is shown in the table. As expected, the CNN model can hardly classify this obfuscated traces. For most cases, the classifier can only achieve an accuracy of about 15%. So now it's demo time. So this demo is showing that the user is currently watching a YouTube video without the extension. And on the right-hand side is a dynamic graph showing the total volume of downloaded packets. So without the extension, we can clearly see the burst patterns from the right-hand side graph. Okay, so next is a demo with the extension enabled. So we have enabled our extension, and then we watch the same video again. So this time we can see that the burst pattern completely changes to one burst every second, which is because we set the W to 1 second in the extension. Also, the size of the burst is changing dynamically since they are differentially private. Okay, so now let's go to discussion. So about reducing the waste, there are many ways we can do. So we can lower the clip bound to be more realistic. For example, changing the upper bound to 100 megabytes instead of 1 gig. Also, we may increase the epsilon value, which treats the privacy for the utility. Also, our methods do not protect the leakage through video length. So intuitively, to make a 1 minute video indistinguishable from an hour video, considerable amount of noise must be added to hide the difference of video length. Therefore, in practice, it's more desirable to only make videos with similar lengths indistinguishable from one another. So one possible solution is to group the videos by length and then path them to the longest length in each group. So to conclude, we borrow techniques from adversarial machine learning and differential privacy to address privacy concerns of streaming traffic. We show that differential privacy effectively defeats inference-based traffic analysis while remain agnostic to ML classifiers. Our results suggested that the two differentially private mechanisms offer good security protection with moderate utility loss. So thank you for your attention. I'm ready to take questions now.
Maybe I'll start. So I was trying to understand the model here. Let's say adversary already know you either watch Spider-Man or something, let's say Frozen. So in that case, the differential privacy, the D will be significantly higher, right? So if that set is high enough so that the D values there are not much options available, will it be the situation that the epsilon will grow, or that relation I didn't get, because it seems like that you're already fixing on adversary the number of videos or the group you are considering.
So are you talking about if the adversary knows the exact set of the videos the user is currently watching? Is that a question?
No, let's see. He's just confused between two, whether I'm watching Frozen or I'm watching Spider-Man, let's see.
Oh, and yeah, so in our scenario, there is a parameter. Say in our case, we have 40 different videos, and then we need to compute the L2 distance of the 40 video. So then the noise needs to be added will be larger. Say in the case you mentioned, if there are only 2 different videos, then the noise needs to be added will be much smaller. And then after adding noise, the trees will look very similar. And there's a security guarantee because we use differential privacy.
So one more question that I wasn't able to get immediately. Let's say we are doing this for videos which are maybe 100 megabytes versus we're doing this videos which are, let's say, 2 gigabytes. What's the trade-off again that you see from the differential privacy perspective as well as from the utility? Typically for larger videos it's become a tougher challenge from the privacy. Do you see that? Or?
Right, just as I mentioned here, so if the 2 videos have very different lengths or very different size, then the noise, because we need to make them even, right, make them similar, then the...
No, I'm just changing. One set is 2 or K videos of 100 megabyte versus K videos of 2 gigabytes. 2 completely different settings. Is the measures exactly the same, or you see a different trade-off between the epsilon values and the utility?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So basically, the video length does matter. But in our data set, we only collect the first 3 minutes of video. So all the length is the same. So basically, the video length is the same. So we didn't really consider the different size of the videos, different lengths of the videos.
So could you clarify something quickly for me? So you say that you have this epsilon private guarantee, right? Because you use the mechanisms, but then at the same time you perform the clipping to get within sort of a non-negative range, right? So does the guarantee still hold?
Yeah, so there is a post-processing theorem in the differential privacy that basically says after you apply differential privacy, you can do anything like maybe plus, minus, something like that, and the privacy guarantee still holds.
Okay, thank you.